He said it was his car. They said that didn't matter. He was 3 stops away from home. But some people never make it back, no matter how close they are. No one expected the quiet kid from apartment 6B to end up in a county jail cell, much less with a broken jaw and no lawyer. And certainly no one thought it would all start with a lost wallet. But that's how these things usually begin, with something small, until it isn't. Darren Mitchell was 26, worked the overnight shift at the distribution center on the edge of Houston, a forklift driver. No records, no enemies. He lived with his grandmother in a 1-bedroom apartment they could barely afford. He wasn't trying to get rich, just survive. That Thursday morning, after his shift ended at 7:30 a.m., he caught the 8:41 bus from Alton Cross to Midtown. It was routine. He'd done it 100 times. Halfway through the ride, an elderly white woman began pacing and muttering near the back. She looked confused, maybe anxious. Darren, seated a few rows up, glanced back once, then returned to scrolling through his phone. What he didn't know was that the woman had just realized her wallet was missing. What she didn't know was that Darren hadn't touched it. But someone else on that bus, a man in a gray suit, sitting across the aisle, saw the glance. And sometimes, a glance is all it takes to become suspect. The 911 call came in at 8:56 a.m. Yeah, I think there's a robbery suspect on the 27th Midtown. Black male, mid-20s, dark hoodie. He's acting nervous. Just took something off that old lady. She looks shaken. When officers stopped the bus 2 stops later, Darren had earbuds in. He didn't hear the command. So when 2 officers boarded, shouted, and grabbed him by the arm, he was stunned, more confused than anything. They slammed him into the seat. One pulled his bag from his shoulder. The other twisted his wrist back. He shouted, "I didn't do anything," which of course sounded to them like guilt. The wallet was never found. But the officers wrote in the report that he matched the description, resisted briefly, and was uncooperative when questioned. Darren spent 4 days in county before anyone from his family even knew where he was. He'd been booked under suspicion of theft, given a public defender who hadn't even seen his file, and assigned a bond far too high for his grandmother to pay. In holding, he was jumped by 2 other inmates, possibly because someone thought he had snitched. He didn't even know what about. When he finally saw a judge, his lip was split, his knuckles bandaged. He didn't ask for sympathy, just clarity. But clarity doesn't live in holding cells. The prosecutor offered him a deal. Plead guilty, walk out with probation. Otherwise, he could be waiting 3 to 4 weeks before a formal hearing. And when you're poor, freedom now always sounds better than justice later. So, he took the deal. He pleaded guilty to something he didn't do. Back home, everything felt quieter. People looked at him differently. Even neighbors who used to wave avoided his eyes. He couldn't go back to work. The distribution center let him go, citing legal complications. His grandmother blamed herself. "I should have raised more hell," she said. "I should have screamed louder." Then came the woman from the bus. Her name was Mrs. Ellison. She was 71. And after seeing Darren's mugshot online, she reached out to the local paper. She said, in her words, "That wasn't the boy who took my wallet." Turns out, the police never showed her a photo. They just went with the witness description. Black male, hoodie, late 20s. That described half the back of that bus. A journalist named Brianna Torres picked up the thread. She contacted the transit authority, filed a FOIA request. 2 weeks later, she had the full bus cam footage, and it was clear as daylight. Darren never moved from his seat. The actual thief was 3 rows back. Someone in a blue jacket, seen sliding something from a seat before slipping out quietly at the stop before Darren was arrested. Brianna published the story. It hit 80,000 views in 2 days. With public pressure mounting, the DA's office quietly vacated Darren's charge and regretfully acknowledged errors in procedure. But that didn't undo the arrest, didn't clear the mugshot from Google, didn't erase the job loss, the scar on his cheek, or the anxiety he now felt whenever a siren passed his window. Darren sued. With the help of a civil rights firm, he filed for wrongful arrest, unlawful detainment, and violation of due process. The city settled $85,000 and a non-disclosure clause. It wasn't enough. Brianna continued to report on the story, digging into the arrest records for that month. Darren's case wasn't rare. In just 30 days, 17 black men were detained under suspicion. And in 12 of those cases, the evidence was later thrown out or never existed to begin with. The common thread: they all matched descriptions. They all had public defenders who never saw them twice. They all pleaded out because the system isn't broken. It's just working exactly as it was designed. Darren now works part-time at a local repair shop. Quiet life, no headlines. But in his room, on a corkboard above his desk, hangs a printed still frame from that bus video. He circled the other guy, the one who actually did it. But what he really sees when he looks at it is himself, sitting still, doing nothing wrong, and how sometimes that's still too much. This wasn't just about a wallet. It was about how fast a life can be erased, and how slowly it gets rebuilt, and how, in America, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is just there. He didn't get justice, but you can help make sure someone else does. Hit subscribe.